Hi, my name is Ashley Gilliland, and this is my presentation for my systematic survey. I describe yoga to be a spiritual, mindful, and physical practice, and what I like about it the most is that it has different forms that can relate to anybody. Yoga can be used for stress relief, improving your flexibility, and maybe stay in shape for a sport. If you go into yoga without an open mind, it's most likely not going to help you. And that's the same case for any wellness practice. Yoga has the potential to help with many different things, but if the individual does not give it a chance, you will not know how much it can help you. For my first scientific literature source, I found a source that combined 11 different studies together made by a bunch of different researchers, and they concluded that the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the prefrontal cortex is affected beneficially by yoga. The authors went on to conclude that there's promising evidence that yoga can help decrease neurodegeneration in older adults, and this is a huge stepping point into seeing how much yoga can actually affect our body and our mind. I found this source to be very credible. It had graphs, tables, it was 11 different studies and a huge amount of researchers working on this. I would conclude that this is a great source. In another study I evaluated, it focused on the elderly population, and in this study, it was a pre-trial, still has not been conducted, it's going to be conducted in 2021. The impact yoga can have on the elderly population, and if it's a good alternative workout routine that they can do instead of extensive hard-working activities. I believe this scientific literature source has the potential of being a very great source. They have charts, variable comparisons that could happen in their trial. They have a consent form explaining that these participants can drop any time and they don't have to be included in the study. And they also provide the methods that they're going to use so that it's more credible. And that's why I believe it is a great source. In my last source, I found an article that focused on the cardiovascular benefits of yoga. And what I found is that yoga benefits the baroreceptor sensitivity in your heart, and this helps the body sense any blood pressure change and maintains balance. The article also went on to describe the benefits that came from yoga for people with diabetes, would decrease their high blood sugar. I concluded that this source was a good source but not a great source, because the studies that it mentioned were not cited into what they were saying, and I believe that it could have been a better one because it could have evaluated it more. But it does have great factual information. I feel like I learned a lot. The first source that I found in popular literature was about the relationship between yoga and psychology. The author mentions that yoga is not just a physical and emotional practice, but is also a life principle practice, and she goes on explaining the different life principles that people can use yoga for. This author then goes on to explain the mental health benefits that yoga has caused. She mentions that GABA, which is a neurotransmitter in your brain, it's inhibitory and it helps reduce neural activity, is released more from yoga, and GABA can be very, very beneficial to people that are suffering from depression or any anxiety disorders. Then goes on to explain that there's different studies that have proven that depression and anxiety have been really cured or reduced from yoga. It then includes that yoga can be beneficial for anybody and makes different paragraphs about men, women, children, and even the elderly, and how that they can be benefited from yoga. Overall, I believe that this was a great source for popular literature because she includes the citations, she includes where she found her information in the text, and then she goes on to put more information just in case the reader wants to learn more about the topic. Also, between each different section, she includes a quote from an expert of the field, and I think that's really credible. In the second article I found, I read about depression and anxiety and the different disorders that were also benefited by yoga, and I saw the different improvements in the different tables and charts that they provided for us. In the text, it explains that the effects last longer than just a day. It can last up to 6 months and can even just cure the patient. I conclude this article to be a great source because it includes a bunch of studies that have proved that the symptoms are reduced from depression and anxiety or mental illnesses. And there's organized tables that are provided for the reader to analyze and understand how they got to their conclusions. They also incorporated statistics that also supported their conclusions. In my last source, I found that yoga has also improved sleep disorders, hyperactivity disorders, and schizophrenia. This author found her information from one of the studies that she included in this article. And it was a 12-minute, 8-week daily plan. And what happened was they found that this proved to lessen markers of inflammation in patients for Alzheimer's and any other form of dementia. The author then explains to the readers that they can do any form of yoga they want, and it can conform to their body type and their personality type and whatever they're looking for. I believe that this is a good piece of literature. She referenced many studies and included citations, and then she ended it by relating the readers to the sources that she brought up and how that they could see benefits in themselves if they tried it. In comparing the popular literature and the scientific literature, I found that both did mention a lot about what happens in the brain. Like in scientific literature, it talked about the emotional and memory connection and how that can be benefited, and the popular literature talked about GABA, the neurotransmitter that suppresses neural activity. But overall, I believe that the scientific literature focused more on the anatomy of the brain and how that's impacted by yoga, and the popular literature focused on the getting people to do it and showing them the positive effects that can happen and getting them involved by knowing that they have the ability to do it as well. In conclusion, I found that it was very apparent after reading these 6 articles that yoga is so beneficial in so many ways, and I think that it's super important that if anybody would like to try yoga, that they know the benefits that can come from it if they're looking for something. And I believe that no one is going to find the results they're looking for if they don't put their entire self into it.